to episode 35 of season 2 of Football Shootball. We called last week the season ender, the season finale. But I think, sorry, Sapre, because I know you were the one who said last week was the finale, but I'm going to push it forward to this week because we forgot, or we didn't really forget, but I don't think we counted the Europa League and Champions League finals that were to take place. And we had to come back a week later. We thought football was done, but it's not done. So we're back this week. Gaurav Sapre, how are you doing? And Gaurav likes to talk when he's on mute for some reason. I think he's been doing podcasting for 2 years now. Let me just say this. He's been doing podcasting for 2 years. And the basic function of unmuting your microphone still doesn't come to him with ease.
Look, I'm trying different methods of hiding my emotions. I thought mute was one of them, right? The finals didn't really go the way we thought they would. So I'm better now than I was what I was feeling probably a week ago. And yes, we did take this for granted because we thought both the cups are going to come to Manchester, which hasn't happened. So we were wrong, but not for the first time and not for the last time either. But I'm doing good now. I'm much better. Yeah.
Good. That's always good to hear. Always chin up, irrespective of a football result. Now, you may have recognized there's a gentleman in yellow on this podcast as well. And that is not Shivram Parmeshwaran. That doesn't look like our co-host, who we have booted for this episode, Sapre, because we have the co-owner of Hyderabad FC, Varun Tripuraneni, on the show today. Welcome, Varun.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hi, Karthik. Hi, Gaurav.
Hi, Varun. So good to have you.
Nice to connect with you guys.
So that was the brief that I got, co-owner of Hyderabad FC. But I'm going to hand over 30 seconds on the microphone to you because you are not an unfamiliar face to fans of Indian football, it must be said. You have been around quite a bit. So a brief introduction, please, for listeners of Football Shootball.
Well, yes, thanks, Karthik. Yeah, so I obviously started my ISL career with Kerala Blasters in year one in 2014. I was head of team management there. I mean, obviously, it was a very short season then. Then I moved on to Chennai FC, where I started off as head of operations. And, when I left Chennai and I was the chief operating officer, I had an opportunity to go back to Kerala Blasters again as the CEO of the club for 2 years. And this is where, in these 4-5 years is where I learned a lot, not just about the league, but, just the sports business in general. And it's played a big role and it's helped me a lot, during my short stint so far as a co-owner of Hyderabad FC. Prior to ISL, I did have a club of my own in the Chennai Football League. I bought a club in the third division. We got promoted 3 years in a row and moved to the super division there. And had a short stint as the president of the Chennai Football Association as well. So that's sort of what I've been doing the last 5-6 years or so.
So there's Kerala, there's Chennai, and now there's Hyderabad FC. Is it safe to say, Varun, that you have an affinity towards the color yellow?
Actually, yeah, in some way, yeah.
That seems to be the common thread, right? Between each of the three clubs. Anyway, welcome to episode 35, where we do a thing on Football Shootball, where we name our episodes after Bollywood movies or Hindi cinema movies, because there's a lot of chat. I think the two of them are big fans of Bollywood. I'm not as much. I prefer watching Master and Vijay, but the two of them are. So we came up with this entire concept that we'll name each episode after Bollywood film. And because we just go for the lowest common denominator, because you're from Hyderabad FC and because the Blues Chelsea won the Champions League, we're just going to call this Hyderabad Blues. This episode, and all the listeners of our podcast know that's the one thing Karthik can come up with. It's just going for the lowest common denominator. Anyway, we'll take a break. We listen to messages from Amit, and we'll be right back with more from Varun and Sapre. All right, so welcome back to Football Shootball Season 2, Episode 35. Quickly, let's talk about the two finals. Varun, when we were chatting before we came on air, your face fell when I mentioned the Europa League final.
Right. Well, yes. It had the relevant team for me playing, and obviously it was Manchester United. But yeah, it was quite disappointing. I thought it was going to be a Not an easy win, but I thought United would get through in in regulation time, but was disappointing in the end. I've
Yeah,
never
it
seen a
wasn't meant to
penalty
be.
shootout like that, but it was unfortunate it had to go down to the keepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mad, Sapre. That was a mad shootout.
Hmm.
He's right. We haven't seen anything like this unless you probably have to watch the third round of the qualifiers of some Europa League match happening in Ukraine. I think that's the only place
Yeah, I
where
mean, I know. I just go easy on Varun and I. There's no penalty for being disappointed, right?
Yeah.
So it was crazy. The penalty shootout was
Yeah.
far more interesting than the entire match. I think I say that when I speak for all who saw that match. But yeah, disappointed. And yes, I'm an eternal optimist. United finished third last season and ended up in the semi-finals. United finished second this season and ended up in the finals. So and I'm
One
sure I'll
step
share a
ahead.
lot of these threads going on Twitter, because what else do United fans have, just to like collate data from everywhere and figure out why the next year is going to be United's year.
Yeah.
One of the other reasons is the last time City won the Premier League and Chelsea won the Champions League. The year after, United won the league title.
Wow.
So everything's written for us, right? we are the hopefuls.
Yeah, that's the best way to stay positive.
I know, man. I mean, it's so fucking disappointing otherwise. But yeah,
No, I mean,
yeah.
it was a yeah. I said I think the penalty shootout was probably more interesting than the than the 90 minutes. And actually, some of the players I thought were I was quite confident they'll miss, but yeah, a lot of them converted.
Yeah, it was fascinating. I know it for us. It went up till what 3:30 in the morning. But at that point, when you're watching that shootout, when it ends 11-10, when one side, each of their first 11 penalty takers, basically the entire team on the field has scored, it is something special. And considering, Varun, we have spoken about your affinity towards yellow. It was the Yellow Submarine who won that final at the end of the day. So maybe there is something in that, and there is something in Villarreal. So congratulations, Villarreal. Varun, you said that you were too disappointed to watch the Champions League final. Was it a surprise though when you heard that Chelsea ended up beating probably the best side in Europe this season?
Well, not entirely surprised. I think Chelsea got the better of City, in a couple of occasions this year. So it was going to be a tough game. I just had a feeling, this was going to be a win for Thomas Tuchel because he was unlucky last year. So just got a feeling it would be his year. But yes, I mean, obviously he's done extremely well. From the time he's taken over there. Yeah, I was actually happy. It was Chelsea over City.
Of course you were. If there's noisy neighbors, right?
Yeah.
If there's one thing, Sapre, when we did the podcast last time, Varun, last week, Sapre was the only one among the three of us who said that Chelsea would win. So fair play. How do you call it, Sapre? You've been on the Chelsea bandwagon for a while now since Tuchel came into the side.
I have been. It takes special skills to beat Tuchel's team, and some of the teams have kind of shown that in the past. He's a good manager. I think he's relied on his defense more than he's like Lampard relied on his offense far more, and it shows. I think what the least goals conceded in the Champions League season, and so he's done pretty well. It's going to be fantastic to see what happens next season. There are some really good players who want to come into the Premier League, right? Chelsea, I think, with or without Tuchel, always has the pull of some of the best players around. But now with this victory, it's going to be even more, just so much better to watch football next season. And fair play, I think City tried their best. You can keep talking in retrospect about should they have played Rodri and Fernandinho. But you never know, right? I mean, Chelsea, like Varun rightly said, they've got the better of City on a couple of occasions.
3 times now.
Three times.
3 times. So fantastic. I mean, lovely for him, lovely for Thiago Silva. He's got a contract extension because of this. And your favorite, Tammy Abraham, is going to be out of Chelsea. So if Hyderabad FC is looking for a striker, we've got some young English talent out there.
Yeah, but that's great, and there's one thing, final word on Chelsea, and I'm going to take this one. There's one comparison that you can draw between 2012 and now, or one difference, in fact, was 2012. All those players, they were probably nearing the end, the likes of Petr Cech or Lampard or even Drogba.
Mhm.
They were nearing the end of an era. This side, when you look at Chelsea right now, I know they haven't probably performed to the best of their ability, the likes of Havertz and Werner and the rest, especially in attack, but they can build towards something special in the years to come. Whether Tuchel remains manager or not, because we know that Oban Ibrahimovic loves changing managers, but it seems to be working. They're a side that collects trophies. Okay, so let's leave the European season there. The Europa League is done. The Champions League is done. Sapre and I and Shivram and with a lot of other guests will be back during the Euros also to talk more about European football. But right now, with Varun here, let's focus our attention to Indian football. We have a co-owner of Hyderabad FC with us. Hyderabad FC, of course, play in the Indian Super League. Varun, you are 2 seasons old. How has the 2 seasons been overall? If you just had to give us your thoughts. I know we'll get into the bio bubble, etc., how different it has been this season. And maybe it's not what you expected. You probably expected to be playing in front of packed houses. But how has it been as a co-owner of a side overall? You've been in the system for a long time now to probably give, comprehensive thoughts about the same.
Right. Yes, I think from our point of view at Hyderabad FC, there were two contrasting seasons. The season we, sort of came into the league, we hardly had any time to prepare. It was more a case of, getting the stadium ready, and, getting it ready, for the first game and finishing the season. No real expectations in terms of, how we're going to do in the table. We had very limited resources when options with players, availability, all that were a bit of an issue in purely from time constraints in year one. And obviously we didn't expect to finish bottom of the table. We had an extremely poor season. But the second season, yes, was a great season for us overall. We knew we had to make a strong statement, and I thought we did just that. We narrowly missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good chance, halfway through the season. We knew we had a shot at the playoffs, and I think we gave it our best. uh, but fell just short in the end. I would say very contrasting season, but I think the season was extremely important in many ways, not just the first team, but I think just if I go back to season one, the Jan transfer window was really the turning point for us. We knew we had to make changes not just for the remainder of that season, but also for the upcoming season and beyond. And we got in some key personnel into the club, like Sujay as director of football.
Mhm.
And we started preparing for like an overhaul from January, from Jan transfer. And pretty much all the signings we made in January have paid off. We got in Liston, who we sold recently to ATK Mohan Bagan. Shavik Chakravarti, an experienced
Yeah.
player, and Hitesh Sharma. Again, I didn't play too much football, but we knew the talent he had, and he's got the
Correct
opportunity.
me if I'm wrong, Varun. Wasn't that then where the managerial change as well happened when Albert Roca came in to replace Phil Brown into
Right.
the side?
So I would say, yes, it was around the same time, but I would actually, sort of credit, well, Sujay and his team for
Mm-hmm.
especially these signings, because they sort of came in before Albert
Mm-hmm.
stepped in. So, but yes, Jan was when, we had that managerial change. It took a lot to first get Roca on board. We had, like, I think a 13-hour meeting at a stretch.
You're smiling
Wow.
there. What's the story? There is a story behind Albert Roca's appointment.
No real story in the sense. I mean, we were. I think it just got to a point where we knew we had to sort of take the call.
Mm-hmm.
We were bottom of the table. Albert's been with clubs who always been on the
Yeah.
top, if not being champions. He's obviously he has a reputation in India as well. So it was first tough to convince him for the meeting itself, and we actually had the meeting in Doha, because that was the what to say, with just the visas, etc. That's the
Right.
only place we could sort of travel and meet quickly. And yeah, I mean, we obviously took him through our plans for the future, and he was confident about the project. And yes, in about 48 to 72 hours, we had him on board. um, it was an interesting sort of a start then, because he wasn't on the touchlines during the remainder of that season, but he was more involved in the recruitment for the upcoming season.
Mhm.
uh, so yeah, I think the Jan, sort of that period with the transfer window was extremely crucial, and I'm really happy we made those key decisions then.
So
um,
let's go back a step before Albert Roca and Phil Brown was manager. Sapre, what is Phil Brown most famous for? Do you remember?
Ah, no, not as.
Phil Brown is most famous for being manager of Hull City and lecturing his players on the field when they were
Oh
trailing, I think 4-0
yeah.
at halftime. A celebration of Jimmy Bullard's
Oh yeah,
later,
Jimmy
which
Bullard.
he
How can I
copied.
forget that?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think Phil Brown had a slightly unfair reputation because that became his most famous
yeah.
one. I thought he was a decent manager for Hull City. How was he to work with?
No, it's great. I mean, I've got a great rapport with Phil. Even now,
Mhm.
I mean, I obviously didn't get a chance to meet him, when he was in Goa for his during his commentary stint. But I think after every win, every good performance, the first message was from Phil.
That's
He was
nice.
extremely proud of how some of the youngsters stepped up, because he was sort of working with them closely during the last few games when at Pune City, and the first half of the season with us. Great rapport. I mean, obviously, when he took the role at Southend recently,
Yeah.
we did message each other. Then I wished him all the best. In fact, he just joked saying he wanted to borrow Aridane for a couple of games there.
Oh wow. Yeah. Let's
But
do
no,
it.
but we got a good rapport, and was
Mhm.
it was a to be fair to him, it was not a very sort of an easy situation for him at Hyderabad FC.
Mhm.
It was a last minute. Obviously, the change last minute didn't help. We didn't have sort of the right training facilities also, and yeah, so there were a number of factors, and unfortunately, we had to part ways. But a great person, and yes, a great manager.
So there's one thing Gaurav and have always wondered, and we don't really know this sitting on the sidelines. So let's talk about the current season, about bubbles. Now across the world, a sport has been happening in bubbles, from cricket to football to almost every other sport. Until recently, when fans are slowly being started to be allowed in, but especially when you guys were playing the ISL, it was pretty strict, these bubbles. So how was it playing in one city without fans? How different it was from your initial season? And do you think that maybe that contributed to an upturn in fortunes?
Uh, well, well, obviously now, well, you could say that, but obviously now, with the team,
I don't mean it to sound disparaging, but sometimes it helps when
yes,
there isn't pressure from fans, from a lot of fans screaming at you. And if it's a new team, particularly under a change in managership, etc., it's probably helped some of the players to acclimatize and get used to their teammates.
yeah. So I think, yes, to an extent, players, and also just from the clubs, from the operations and the management perspective as well. I think it was. It did help to a certain extent, because we could focus a lot or purely only on the first team. Whereas, if when you would have home games, or other things, you are sort of
Yeah.
focusing on. And for us, this season was extremely important. That it was very important that the first team does well. So we had we put in a lot of effort, and all the resources for the first team and the ISL. From that point of view, yes, personally, I feel, yes, it was good. But yes, I mean, again, as a player, you want to be playing in front of big crowds. As you said, yes, for some of the youngsters, the pressure is off. But I think it's just different, when you play in front of crowds. And I'm uh, I'm hoping we get back to that scenario pretty soon. But going back to the bubble, I think the players, staff adjusted extremely well. Not just from our club, I think the entire league. I think all the clubs did extremely well, and otherwise it would have been impossible to pull off such a season, because unlike maybe the IPL, which is a much shorter window,
Yeah.
for this to sort of the bubble to last well, for this 6 months duration, took a lot of effort.
Yeah, you can tell, right, Sapre, in Varun's voice that he misses crowds when he was talking about probably filling up the stadium in Gachibowli and
It does,
getting
it does.
in home. It does,
Because
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the first season was spent, on facilities and
Yeah.
fan engagement, etc.
Yeah.
And you look forward to the next season, and you take your learnings, and you've done fantastic in the previous season, right? I mean, one of the you have fewer losses than I think Mumbai City did.
Yeah.
That one last match you spoke about, that one last match was just one victory away from the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that would have been a different story. But yeah, but how was the bio bubble for your for your international contingent? It would have been different for them altogether than being outside India, not knowing really what's happening here. It was very much as what happened in the IPL, or was it slightly different, more difficult, more challenging?
Well, for once they completed the season, so I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really working for Cricket Info. I shouldn't be taking pot shots at cricket, but okay.
No, I think well, I think the important thing was for players and support staff to actually sort of understanding what they will go through. Once they enter the bubble. I think we spent a lot of time interacting with the players, especially the foreign players, and sort of. I mean, obviously, all of them had a lot of questions as to what they can do, what they can't do. Once they enter the bubble. I think the operations team and the team management did extremely well, clarifying their doubts, and they were fully prepared. I think they were prepared for the worst, but I think we had a great group together. In fact, one of the things we discussed while doing our player recruitment was, especially the foreign players, is that we knew, while you always talk about having good quality players, considering the bubble sort of scenario, we knew it was important to get the right personalities as well, because we didn't want a situation where a player does not sort of is not able to adjust in the bubble, and you're all of a sudden looking for a replacement. And when you're talking about a foreign player replacement, leaving out the couple of weeks to recruit the player, you got the visa issue, and then a 2-week quarantine before he steps onto the field, so you pretty much lose
So lose the momentum as well.
lose
It's quite
momentum.
challenging. But I think good point you touched upon, Karthik. I think this is something I'm genuinely interested to understand about the Indian football scenario. You spoke about transfers and all of that, and now you're 2 seasons in. You know what kind of team you want to build around your new coach, etc. Do you have like a strong scouting network that you look into? Are you one of those clubs who will look at a lot of data, or are you somebody who will just go with gut feeling, etc.? How does it happen? Is it very different from other leagues in Asia? Not compared to Europe or the other ones, but at least in Asia, are we at par with them? And how do you look at it from your club's perspective?
I think in terms of the scouting department itself, that's something which we are looking to invest in, especially when it comes to the Indian players. And well, right now we have Sujay, who sort of heads the technical department as director of football. We've got a small analysis team at the moment. Apart from the first team analyst, we have one or two more young analysts on board. We did a lot of work on the foreign player recruitment last year. We obviously tried doing it slightly differently, where we did work with a company which provided a lot of data on the foreign players. Again, when you, obviously certain coaches have um, you know certain characteristics they look for
Yeah.
with players. So what we were trying to do was to sort of provide enough data for them to sort of take a final call. You might end up looking at maybe 200, 300 profiles, but in the end, the coach might feel that so and so player who did not come through this sort of the scouting platform or the analysis might be the right player to sort of fit into the squad. But it at least gives us and the coaches enough options to pick from. It's really to sort of avoid making too many mistakes. And it really helped us in our sort of decision making process. Whereas with Indian players, yes, we are looking to sort of develop and increase the scouting team we have currently. Again, we with the current COVID scenario, we have not been able to make too much progress.
Yeah.
But this is an area we will invest in. We also have Tangboy Singto as our assistant coach for the first team and head of youth
Right.
development. So he also plays a key role, when it comes to scouting of Indian players. Um, this is a very important sort of department within the club, and I feel it could be like sort of a key differentiator when it comes to
Hmm.
the some of the other clubs in the ISL.
Yeah,
Uh, wha-
it's
yeah,
it's fascinating, right? Like I remember I live in Bangalore, so I go
right.
to the HL grounds often. And a couple of years back, I think this was in 2019, I used to go and watch Bangalore United play that time in the BDFA divisions. And even then, this was, I think they just came into the I League this season.
Right.
This was the season before.
Mm.
Uh, they had trackers, and this is not a big club. You wouldn't assume that they would have the level of technology that they did, and they had trackers for each of their players. Their training sessions were as intense as I would imagine
Yeah,
that in the ISL,
sure.
but I wouldn't have thought that a local Bangalore club would have that. So it brought a smile to my face. That it's good thing where Indian football is heading. At least there's a certain path.
Yeah.
You
Also,
know,
I
it's
think.
it's very encouraging to also know what Varun just said, because from a fan's perspective, I think what one other thing that they want apart from entertainment is an effort being put into the business models around these
Hmm.
sports franchises, etc. And is it worth somebody's time, or is it something just going to come for 5-10 years and move on, and we
Yeah.
go back to our cribbing? So it's good to know that investments are done in the right area. I think scouting is where it all begins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good players make good teams, so it's very encouraging, at least for me, to know that.
Yeah. And also, I think, as Karthik was mentioning, the players from the teams in the Bangalore league. I think what the last few years in the ISL has done is, there has been a significant increase in transfer revenues as well
Hmm.
for a few
Yeah.
clubs. A couple of years back, I mean, maybe it was like a very sort of a minimal sort of a number, and even that, may happen. Some clubs may earn or may not earn. But I think just having seen that, I mean, we obviously had a good transfer deal with ATK Mohun Bagan for Liston, and just going back to the Bangalore league example. When I obviously had my clubs in the Chennai league, I think just between our club and maybe Chennai City, which is owned by Rohit, I think there are at least about 6 to 8 players who are currently playing in the ISL.
Okay,
Uh, la-
nice.
like Edwin and Ajit played for my team when we were in the first division of the Chennai league, not even the
Hmm.
senior division. Then obviously Susai Raj and a couple of others, have now moved to the ISL. So I think just looking at that, I think that should be like, encouragement for a lot of clubs, not just in the I League second division, but also in the regional leagues to
Yeah.
sort of, step up and, know that it is important to invest in these areas.
Anyone mentions Michael Susaraj's name, it just puts a smile on my face. Like he is, I love the guy. He's one of my favorite players. Anyway, you were talking about bubbles, and that got me thinking. That got me thinking to a video I think I saw a few days back. I confess I've only seen one of Hyderabad FC's Future Is Us videos, and I think, Varun, this is a 7-part series. I saw the second one where it was titled The New Normal. It was about quarantine measures, etc., etc. But a bit about this video series. How did the idea come about, and what is the purpose/intention behind it?
Well, I think just with the current scenario, we knew we couldn't really interact directly with
Mm.
fans. I mean, in person, and obviously there was a lot, being spoken about bubble, not just in ISL but in IPL. Everyone's comparing what happened here, what happened here. So we just felt, it was, sort of good to show what actually happened behind the scenes, because a lot of fans want to see how the teams prepare obviously in a normal scenario, but also with the bubble, it is a little more interesting just to see and understand. And also I think from our point of view, since we had a good season, a lot of youngsters coming through and making it to the national team, I think that was the biggest what to say, the most satisfying sort of a thing for us at the club. So we felt it was good to capture all this, and that's how we sort of came about with this Future Results series. We've completed 4. I mean, we were doing one every week, but since we've got really good response in the first couple of episodes, we just taking a little bit of more time to actually make sure that we finish the rest of the
Yeah,
series.
keeping the audience waiting.
Waiting.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Excellent. But that's great. So it'll all be out on Hyderabad FC's YouTube channel, all the videos.
Yes,
That's
that's
where.
right. That's right.
Okay.
And
So
we will obviously look to do a much better series going forward for the next season. Obviously, this has sort of given us encouragement that we've got to start working on it from now. I mean, what we've done for this series is pretty much use the footage we've sort of shot throughout the season. We didn't really shoot specifically for this, but I'm sure we'll plan and have an even more exciting one next year.
excellent. So we look forward to it. So
Look
you can
forward to
check
it.
that. Yeah, you can check that out on YouTube. I saw a couple of more videos that, listener, you should check out. Varun has spoken to both Sportskeeda and The Bridge, I think, recently. Both are up on YouTube. There were some pretty interesting thoughts there. Probably a little more in depth to what you'll get here, because here you'll get more of us, you'll get more of fun. But those are some excellent videos as well. Varun will take a short break, Sapre, and we'll come back with final thoughts. So welcome back to Football Shootball, episode 35 of season 2. Hyderabad Blues with Varun Tripuraneni, the co-owner of Hyderabad FC, who are in partnership with Sapre's second favorite club, Borussia Dortmund. Sapre, are they trying to recreate the yellow wall? Is that what they're trying to do?
They should if they aren't. But
Yeah.
what I'm more interested in is, Varun, if Sancho wants to come to United and Hyderabad FC, you got yourself into trouble. So, but what a club to partner with. I mean, the kind of coaches that they've had, the youth system, just the style of play in a one club league.
Yep.
Is right, Karthik? Right? It's just brilliant too. So how's that been so far? What is the kind of sharing that happens between the two clubs? This is so exciting.
Yeah, so no, it's definitely an exciting partnership. As you mentioned, I think as Karthik introduced this as your second favorite club, and that's a sort of I would say a messaging or sort of messages we get with Hyderabad FC. I mean, obviously, we didn't sort of plan to be that, but I think just the way we played. it's everyone's sort of referring as, our second favorite club is HFC. So that's a good
That's sweet.
connect there. But no, I think the partnership with Dortmund, as I said, there's a lot more to offer. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
again, we've not been able to do too many activities on ground. I mean, obviously, the priorities have been different for them and for us in the last 12 months or so. But the main motive or objective for the partnership is the focus would be on youth development and fan engagement. Hardly anything, I would say, with the first team, but
Got it.
completely at the grassroots level and fan engagement. I think there's a lot to learn, uh, from them in terms of how they sort of keep. Well, I was going to say how they keep the fans engaged, but I think they don't have to do too much there. But again, a lot of knowledge sharing, from their head of fan engagement, fan clubs also. There will be opportunities
Mhm.
for their fans to interact with our fans. Um, um, and then when I say grassroots, a lot of emphasis on coach education, because I think that's the most important
Yeah.
aspect. So this sort of thought, for such a partnership actually came in our first year, when we actually did quite a bit of interaction with schools, though we didn't have any sort of grassroots activities as such. But what we did notice is the participation levels in Hyderabad are extremely, extremely high. I was just comparing it with, a city like Chennai, where I've spent a lot of time. I
Mhm.
just felt at school level, the participation levels are extremely high for football. And we realized that we needed to sort of focus a lot on the coach education bit. And once the situation's back to normal, we will invest in a lot of grassroots leagues as well. And since we were putting our systems in place, and we were starting from scratch, we knew we needed a sort of a proven partner to help us put the right process in place right from the very beginning. So that's how the partnership with Dortmund sort of came about. And my relation with Dortmund goes back a long way. So I've known the club at a personal level for many years. In fact, I had an opportunity to meet Thomas Tuchel when he was in Dortmund.
Oh
I think
wow.
in 2015, I traveled to China for
Mhm.
the preseason tour. It was Man City,
Sweet.
Man United, and Dortmund. And I had an opportunity to meet Thomas Tuchel very briefly. I think it was in Shanghai or Beijing. I can't remember where it was. And yeah, I mean,
This would have been when Aubameyang was there. He was there doing his
yes,
mass celebration. And yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I have a good picture with Aubameyang actually.
I'm
The
so
that's nice.
quick question. Where was Hummels then?
Hummels, I think Bayern, right?
Yeah, Hummels would have moved to Bayern before he came back. I think just after
Yeah,
the World Cup he moved to Bayern.
Okay.
yeah.
Gundogan must be there
Yeah,
in that season as well.
I think Gundogan.
Gundogan.
So I went for the United Dortmund game, and this was Henrik Mkhitaryan's first game for United, playing
Ah,
against
okay.
and was playing
Wow.
in Dortmund.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Dortmund won that 3-1. I think 3-1 or 4-1 that preseason.
Preseason. We don't
Yeah,
count preseason.
preseason. Yeah, yeah.
That's nice, but it's nice to hear that your association goes back. And if there's two things you can learn from Dortmund, like you said, fan engagement, they're probably the best in the world, and youth development. There's literally a 17-year-old English kid, Jude Bellingham,
Yeah,
playing in their first team day
yeah,
in, week out.
yeah,
So it doesn't get better than Borussia Dortmund.
yeah.
Last word, maybe on Hyderabad FC, Varun, because I was looking through the India squad and I realized that there are three players from HFC in currently with Stamaks boys in where are they in the UAE? They're in the UAE
Great.
playing
Yeah.
for the qualifiers. So that must be your source of pride, right?
Yes, I think as I said, I think that's the sort of the biggest achievement I think from the
Mm-hmm.
season, and I think a lot of credit to Manolo Marquez for that. Because as I said, Manolo sort of came in with just a couple of weeks to go before preseason, hardly had any knowledge about ISL or Indian players. And well, I think the first call we had, to discuss about Indian players, this was just after he, did extensive work watching videos of the Indian squad. The first name he brought up and he mentioned was Akash Mishra.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Okay.
and I've hardly seen much about, I've hardly seen Akash Mishra play. And, he was going to be playing his first season of ISL. And he actually said he's a top fullback, and he will go on to play for India. And that's what happened, end of the season. So there were some great moments there. And I'm very happy the youngsters stepped up. I think a couple of others were a little unfortunate to miss out. Ashish Rai, picked up that injury. Otherwise, I think he was going strong for that, right back spot. Um, Liston was our player till yesterday. Unfortunately, he counts as a Mohan Bagan 80K player now. But no, but I think what was satisfying is, we had players like Sana didn't get to play too many games over a couple of years with Goa and Delhi previously. Liston the same. Happy they took the opportunities they had and made it to the national team. But great moment for the club. I think obviously we didn't have a trophy to sort of showcase, but I think this sort of gave us a great moment in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that Chinglin Sana Singh is in the India squad, because I don't know, a couple of years ago I don't know if you agree with me, but I started looking at him as maybe a lost talent. Like
Right.
maybe he wouldn't achieve that potential, but it's great to hear. Now let's a couple of more questions, and then you're free of us on football. Varun, let's look ahead to Hyderabad FC next season. Of course, we all hope fans are back. Sapre wants to run to Mumbai Football Arena to watch Mumbai City play. He lives in Vadala, so it's a fair distance, but he will still make that trip. So let's look ahead to next season. Where do you see Hyderabad from here? I know you mentioned season 1, where you hardly had any preparations. There were a lot of external factors, and you did what you could. Season 2 maybe achieved above expectations. Season 3, where can we see Hyderabad FC?
Well, I think the two things. I mean, one, obviously on the field, we obviously want to go one step further. Making it to the playoffs. I believe we have a pretty strong core of players. We managed to retain. We've lost one or two players, and that's part of the sport. But
Yeah.
we've got a good set of players who've sort of come in. We've obviously got to strengthen the foreign contingent. There will be a few new faces in the in the foreign contingent, but I think we'll have a strong competitive squad on the pitch, and I think we will be a strong contender next season. But again, off the field, we do want to build the brand HFC. As I said, tough first season, but we made a great comeback last year, and now we've got to sort of build on last season, and obviously do well, on the commercial front as well. If it's sponsorships, building new partnerships. Again, our focus last year has been, on youth players, and I believe we've done well to, sort of be in a position to attract some top young talent. When I say that, it's not just for the first team, but also for our youth teams, which we've just started to build. And one of the other important aspects we've been working on is to, have our own training facility, and also a top academy. We are in talks with a few partners to set up a good academy, and we're hoping during the course of the season that project will also be up and running. So on the field and off the field, I think we've sort of set a certain benchmark on the pitch this year, and I'm confident we will sort of go a step further.
Excellent. We wish you all the best. Football will now adopt HFC as their favorite ISL club of the podcast. Now, Sapre began this pod by saying that Manchester United, the way that it's headed, would win the league title and the Champions League next season. Now, your predictions on your favorite club.
Well, United, well, I would. It's going to be a tough season.
Isn't
And I
it
say,
always, Varun? Isn't it
well,
always?
well, I think the one thing we keep saying about a Premier League is it's just going to get tougher.
Hmm.
Every year we just keep saying it's going to get tougher. But I just think, with in fact, more than the players this time, I think it's with the managers. It's just got so interesting. I mean, okay, it was Guardiola, now then Klopp, now obviously Chelsea with Tuchel. So I think Solskjaer is going to have will need a very, very, a strong set of players. And I think top two finish. I don't know if I don't know we'll be champions, but one or two I hope.
A top two finish for Manchester United, says Varun. We'll get him on the podcast next year to see if his prediction comes true. Any last words, Varun? Where can we find you? Are you on social media? Can people interact with you on, say, your Twitter?
Yeah, not that active, but yes, I am on both Twitter and Insta. I think Insta it's just Varun.Tripuraneni,
Mhm.
and on in Twitter it's TVAROON.
Okay.
Yeah.
TVAROON. So
Yeah.
Varun. Yeah. Okay. So go, guys. Go find him on Twitter.
Yeah, don't
Like,
like send him DMs of, sir,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to
Don't,
join
don't do
club.
that.
Yeah, so, like he's not a recruiter.
Well, excellent. This has been a lot of fun. Varun, Sapre, any final words?
No, thank you, Varun, man. I think this season, like I said, we just missed the playoffs. Next season, we're also looking forward to see what Hyderabad FC can do. All the best to you. You got grand plans. And yeah, like Ayer said, you will be a club of choice in season 3 of
Yes.
football. Yeah. So we'll be
Yes.
supporting you as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Excellent. So this
Great talking
is
to you guys.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for coming on. Football Should Ball, episode number 35, season 2, Hyderabad Blues. Ciao.
IVM.